Well, suspensions, they've been handed down by the NBA following that scuffle on Friday evening against the New Orleans Pelicans. We'll just get straight into it. Jimmy Butler and Nikola Jovic have each been suspended one game. Thomas Bryant, the legend himself, has been suspended 3 games. So Miami getting 3 suspensions handed down on them by the NBA. If you're looking at the New Orleans side of it, Jose Alvarado has been suspended 3 games. Naji Marshall, that loser, has been suspended 1 game. I am Nic Rohloff. This is the Heat Report. Wanted to bring you the breaking news surrounding the Miami Heat because, well, they're still on a 3-game West Coast trip where they have a game on Monday night against the Sacramento Kings, Tuesday against Joe Cronin's Portland Trail Blazers, and then Thursday, NBA Finals rematch against the Denver Nuggets. And, well, the Heat are going to be without at least 2 starters right now against the Kings on late Monday evening, which, well, it might not be the worst thing because then all hell is going to come down on Tuesday night against the Portland Trail Blazers, which that will bring a smile to my face, and I know it will bring a smile to yours as well. Make sure you're subscribed, though, because we're going to update you on the latest Miami Heat news, including the suspensions, any injury news as well. And I do want to have a conversation about how this scuffle for the Miami Heat actually might help Miami in the long term and propel them on a run. But make sure you are subscribed for that postseason push. All right. I actually do think, though, if we just go away from the news and the suspension, this fight couldn't have came at a better time for this Heat team because, let's be honest here, the Heat are a better basketball team when they are closer. They are never the most talented team when they're in the postseason matchup. When you play the Bucks, when you play the Celtics, you play the Sixers, you are not the more talented team. That is never the case. But the Heat always win because of their discipline, their toughness, the coaching from Spoelstra, and the togetherness of the squad. That's what propels them over these other teams that are more talented than them in the Eastern Conference. And this scuffle, this moment in this season is only going to bring the Miami Heat closer and closer together. If we just revisit the play where Kevin Love commits a little bit of a hard foul, but even Zion Williamson came out and said that it actually helped him brace his fall as he was holding on to him for a little bit extra in terms of Kevin Love with Zion. And then obviously Naji Marshall took exception to it. Butler, I guess, accidentally grabbed Naji's neck. Like, it was like for a very split second. Like, it was not like he went to go purposefully grab it. He just like brushed it. And then Naji Marshall really took exception to that and grabbed Jimmy's neck. But you saw Hawkes come into the fight. You saw Nikola Jovic come off the bench and start screaming, getting into things. You obviously saw Thomas Bryant and Jose Alvarado meet up at the scorers table, and they started throwing hands, which is why they got suspended 3 games. You saw Bam get into the mix. Tyler Hero, Jaime Hawkes. Like, here's the thing. And Udonis Haslem is smiling right now. Wherever UD is, he is happy. I don't care about the suspensions. The fact that this team has each other's backs, because we just saw a couple weeks ago against the Boston Celtics, well, Duncan and Jaylen Brown got tangled up. There was a moment there between those two, but the Heat really didn't get into like a mix-up, right? Like, they were all still buddy-buddy after the game. Everyone slandered Adebayo for doing that, but we're seeing a team that, as Jimmy Butler gets back, and he's posted on Instagram, it's that time, and he's happy, he's ready to be the villain again, go on a little run in the postseason. This team is coming closer and closer together, which is what the Heat need. The power of friendship, as we like to joke about it. This is big time for Miami, and I love the fact that Butler had, like, the teammates had Jimmy's back. Like, Jovic obviously is his guy, and he just went up and started screaming. He got into the mix. Like, it fired you up, and if you're a Heat fan, you should be very excited about the direction that this Heat team is going in. We're going to talk more about this in just a bit, but I want to get your thoughts on it. Are you upset that they got suspended? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Obviously, you're upset, but things were going to, that was just going to happen. And if we're going to be honest, the Heat actually caught a break. Like, you saw Jovic get suspended 1 game because he was not on the floor when this happened. He came off the bench and got into the mix of things and started screaming, pushing, and shoving. Well, Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero kind of did that as well. and they are not getting suspended. So the Heat actually catch a break where they're going to have Tyler, hopefully, we'll talk about his injury in a second, and Bam tomorrow night against the Sacramento Kings when, well, a lot of reporters from Miami and fans thought the Heat would be without Jimmy, without Jovic, without Bam, without Hero because of suspensions, and they were just going to hope that Alondas Williams, Cole Swider, and Jaime Jaquez Jr. were going to lead the charge against the Kings. But luckily, those two are not going to be suspended, and they'll be available for Monday night. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks, so make sure you go check out the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America, prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use code CLNS to get a first deposit match up to $100. Not going to be able to play it in the state of Florida too much longer if you're there. If you're not in Florida, good, you still can play Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use code CLNS. Get a first deposit match up to $100. Yeah, this is a big week, though, for Miami when you look towards this 4-game set this week. They got, like I mentioned, Sacramento, Portland, Denver, and then next Saturday they return home to the Kaseya Center for the first time post-All-Star break against the Utah Jazz. Like, in order to keep pace in this Eastern Conference, you're going to have to just keep on stacking wins. Heat obviously riding a 3-game win streak right now, going back for the 2 games before the All-Star break, and then obviously Friday night against New Orleans. You'd like to see a 3-1 week, if that's possible. Like, you should beat Utah at home. You should beat Portland because they're horrible. Can you split Denver and Sacramento? That would be a 4-1 start post-All-Star break. That's where you really have to get climbing up the Eastern Conference standings. The Heat have the 27th easiest schedule remaining in the NBA. You have to take advantage of these games, and you have to get to that 6th seed. If we're going to be honest, I don't really want to get to the 5 and 4 because I don't want to play Boston in the second round. I'd rather have to eliminate them in the Eastern Conference Finals again because I would take Miami over Cleveland, over Milwaukee in that first round, and I would take them over them in the second round. So I think that 2nd or the 6th seed to avoid the play-in but play one of Milwaukee and Cleveland in the first round, that's what Miami should be aiming for. Obviously, like, if they just keep on winning and they get to the 4-5, like, there's nothing you can control about that, but you'll just have to take care of Boston earlier than expected in order to get to the NBA Finals for the 2nd straight year. And if Miami does want to get there, you need to be healthy. And we see Terry Rozier still missing time. He did make the trip, though. I want to make note of that. Terry Rozier made the trip on this West Coast trip, so it is kind of likely that Terry might return during these 3 games over the next 5 days. Maybe and hopefully that game that he comes back will be Thursday against Denver because Miami will absolutely need Rozier to be back in his scoring ability and playmaking ability against the defending NBA champions. So Rozier is going to be back sooner rather than later. J-Rich, I got to be honest, guys. I'm very nervous about Josh Richardson. I don't know when he's going to be able to come back. He was in a sling. I don't know if he's going to be able to return, like, in the short term. It might be a month and a half, 2 months. Like, you see Julius Randle with the Knicks. Like, he's been out for a very long time, and that's, like, a very similar injury for Josh Richardson. Hopefully J-Rich is able to return, but I'm not too optimistic about it because that is a pretty severe injury. He's been key off the bench for Miami, but that's why the Heat signed DeLon Wright in the buyout market for added depth. He didn't play in Friday's game against New Orleans. Maybe he plays in one of the 2 games on Monday and Tuesday as the Heat have a back-to-back, but that's why you signed DeLon Wright. Let's get to Tyler Hero now because everything was going right for Miami after the scuffle, the final 8 minutes. The Heat just absolutely dominated the Pelicans. They gave up 5 points in the final 8 minutes of the game, which, by the way, going under the radar, the Heat are by far the best team in the NBA defensively in the month of February. They have been unbelievable. You talk about a team that has turned things around after that 7-game losing streak. It's Miami's defense. They have been the #1 defensive rated team in the month of February. They've also been the #1 team in terms of holding their opponents to points per game. Like, they're giving up just barely over 100 a night. It's 102.2 the last time I checked. Like, they have been shutting down opponents, holding them under 100, and winning games like they have been. This team is coming together. It's massive. The meeting of looking at the film, harsh things were said, but they needed to be said. And then you get these scuffles. They're coming together. Now they have a team together moment on the road last night. they are just clicking at the right time. And when Jimmy Butler's posting on Instagram about it's about that time, well, couldn't be more excited about that. But with Hero's injury, circling back to that and finishing out today's show, he did hyperextend that knee late in the fourth quarter, which very scary. He did say after the game that there was no major structural damage or really any minor structural damage. That is good. I don't know if he plays on Monday against the Kings. I don't know if it would be smart to play Tyler in back-to-back games after hyperextending that knee. So maybe you look for Hero to play one of the two games. If he's healthy enough to play on Monday against Sacramento, you're going to need him because that's a good team over there in Sacramento. So you're going to have to use every player that you have. Now, with Jimmy Butler being out and then coming back on Tuesday against the Blazers, maybe if Hero's ready, you can play him Monday, sit him Tuesday, and then he can start getting back into form after a day off against Denver on Thursday. But Hero's injury not serious, which is massive because I really thought that he was going to be out for an extended period of time, which would have just absolutely killed Miami considering their backcourt is already decimated with Rozier and Josh Richardson's injury, but look for Duncan Robinson to slide into that starting lineup as well as Jaime Jaquez Jr. On this game against the Kings on Monday because you got to replace Jovic and Jimmy. I expect Duncan and Jaquez to get the call. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. Make sure you are subscribed because we're going to update you on everything surrounding the Miami Heat. Gave you the news on the suspension. Talked about the injuries for the Miami Heat. There's nothing that you will not get here at the Heat Report. So hit that sub button. I'll see you Monday night for a watch party against the Kings.